Alright guys, starting to get some parts in already, so that's cool. Got my brake-in oil, I got my special GL4 oil for the Muncie 4-speed. And I got a tap and the harmonic balancer bolt because I gotta rethread the threads in the crank. Alright, that was easier than I thought it would be. Successfully got this rethreaded. Gonna run this tap through a couple times. Feels good. There's the radiator. It's a 4-row. Should keep it nice and cool in the hot Arkansas summers. A little bigger than I usually get, but I want this car to run super cool. And most of our weather here is warm, which I like. Alright, so I basically got a trunk full of parts right now. And I'm going to start getting after it. Got my Edelbrock 1406 over there. It's a 650 carburetor. It's actually used off of eBay. It looks like brand new, but it's used. Trying to do everything as cheap as possible, as I've said so many times. I've got my shifter boot. Maybe I'll put that on today. I think I'm going to start by putting the water pump on, which is over there. Get that on there. I actually had to get a longer bolt for the crank because there was only a couple threads in there. So now I've got a good inch of threads into the crank. Alright, I got the new push rod in on that side that was mushroomed on the end. That's installed. I got a whole new set of push rods, but I'll replace all the rest of them when I do the valve springs on it. All the other ones are good, but I'll just throw the new ones in there when I'm doing that job after I get it broke in. This is my adapter plate. I actually got the correct one with the 4 separate holes to go onto the Quadrajet intake to put that Edelbrock carburetor on. You're probably wondering why I didn't put a performance intake on it. Number one, this is a cheap build, trying to save money wherever I can. And number two, this is not a high performance engine or anything, and the high performance intakes, they really only make power at high RPMs, and this engine's not going to see, probably not going to see over 3,500 RPM very often, so just going to keep it simple. Alright, there's the carburetor installed with the air filter. Looks pretty slick. It's been a while since I've put a carburetor on anything. I guess what I'll do now is put the water pump on. Start working my way out this way. Maybe I'll even get the radiator mounted. Here's a water pump here. I couldn't find any bolts to put the fan on locally, so I might have to order them. It's a really weird size. It's 5/16 with a 24 thread pitch. There's one more place locally I'm going to try and see if I can find them. And I had to pick up some longer bolts for the water pump, so I'm going to try and get that on. And I also stopped and got some plugs. I got to plug up a couple holes on the intake. One of them I will be using for the vacuum brakes, power brakes, but right now I'm just going to plug all the holes so I can get the engine broke in. I also picked up a couple plugs for this water pump here because I'm not going to be running heat right now, so I can plug those holes up. Alright, I got the water pump installed. I changed that pulley again. I had to take some of my washers out. I had it spaced out, but ended up being wrong. So I put it back together, and probably gonna have to take this bolt back out so I can put my bracket on for the alternator, but leave that in there for now. Got the plug on the back of the intake, and then these two plugs here for now. Won't be running heat. Eventually I will. Now I gotta take these manifolds off that I have all nicely installed, because I'll be putting those other ones on that I've got. The Corvette ones, the 2.5 inch, the bigger ones. So these are the original 57 Chevy manifolds. They would work just fine, but they're kind of designed for a heat riser, so the collectors are a little bit weird. Just want to simplify things and run a header collector, so I can just run a regular header gasket instead of some kind of weird adapter. Alright, check it out. Got the radiator installed, radiator hoses. Real tight fit with that mechanical fan, but I think it's going to work, so that's cool. So I got the fan on. It's actually going to work, the mechanical fan. I was really hoping I didn't have to run an electric fan on this. I'm going to have to get a shroud, obviously, but it's really close, but it's far enough away that there's not going to be any issues there. Probably a good 1.25 inches. But it's weird, the radiator sits up kind of high, so the fan goes down past the actual radiator part itself, which is kind of weird, but it's going to work just fine. So don't think there'll be any problem there. Just gotta come up with a shroud for it. A little bit more progress. Sorry these videos are kind of choppy and not very detailed. Just haven't felt like doing any time lapse or anything like that. I've just been getting work done. It's hard to film and get stuff done at the same time sometimes, but got the exhaust manifolds on and the alternator brackets. I just gotta figure out what size belt I need. This thing, it only really has about 1 inch of travel, so that could be a problem, but the reason for that is the bracket is hitting against the alternator when you put it up like that. Otherwise it would have all this. But if I get a belt that's just tight enough where it slips on right there, it should be able to tighten up enough, hopefully. And then yep, there's the larger Corvette style exhaust manifolds installed, and they have the little castings on them for the alternator brackets, because this has got the double hump heads with no accessory holes, and this side also has the bracket. And I was gonna cut this off to clean it up a little bit, but it really doesn't get in the way of anything, so I decided to leave it on in case I ever decide to do air conditioning or anything like that. I'll have this here that I can build something off of and make it work. Because if I cut that off and I decide to do AC later on down the road, then I'll be kicking myself. I mean, I suppose I could always go off with the water pump bolts, but would rather use this. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the drive shaft together. I've got the U-joints now. They actually had, well, it's just a 1310 U-joint, so pretty generic, well used U-joint, but got the spicer, slightly better, and then I've got the yoke in the trunk. That is hopefully the right one. It's in that wax paper. I won't pull it out right now, but that should be the 27 spline yoke that'll slip into the back of the 4-speed with the 1310 U-joint, and hopefully everything will fit, everything will work. Hey guys, what's going on? Working on the 57. It's about to storm out there. It's starting to rain. I got the drive shaft all put together with the new U-joints. So now I gotta jack the car up, get the ramps under it, so I got some room under there. And when I get this in, then I can put the transmission fluid in, or oil I should say. Manual transmission. Takes gear oil, and then I can throw the starter in now that I got the bolts for it, and start working on the exhaust. Alright, a couple days later. Again, I want to apologize that this video has been so choppy and all over the place. I've just been trying to work on the car and do the thing and figure everything out, so you know, don't really have the time to set the camera up and get really good video and all that. Just been trying to figure things out. I got the drive shaft in the car, and it's the right proper length and everything. That's the factory 57 Chevy drive shaft. I've got a nice amount of you know, whatever you want to call it there, engagement into the back of the transmission, and there's still enough, there's probably a good inch of travel there, you know, for the suspension and stuff to come up and down so it can slide in and out of there as needed. And what else did I do? Well, for some reason the transmission was stuck in gear and it would not go into neutral, and I figured that out when I was putting the drive shaft in. The transmission just would not turn even with the shifter in neutral, so I ended up taking that side cover off, and one of my forks apparently wasn't installed right by yours truly behind the camera, and wasn't working properly. So I put it together and it looks like it's all right now. So I gotta finish putting the shifter linkage together. I forgot how it goes, so I'm trying to figure that out now. And when I get that together, hopefully they'll be in neutral. Right now it's in neutral. I can spin the drive shaft with the wheels off the ground, and it'll spin and everything. And hopefully we got all the gears and everything's all good there. Then when I'm done with that, I can put my special GL4 oil in the transmission. And I've got to admit something here, because some people have called me out on it in the previous videos, telling me that the tie rod is going to rub on the oil pan. I've had more than one people mention it, and I think I replied to the comments and said, no, it clears fine. But I was totally wrong. It does rub. Right now, the wheels are straight, and there's plenty of room there. So I thought I was good, but when the wheels are turned, that tie rod kind of angles itself into the oil pan, and it rubs when it's all the way at the end of the travel, like turning right or left, but it rubs ever so slightly. What I'm going to do is I'm going to forget about that, just pretend like I never seen that, and run with it. And eventually I'm going to have to change that oil pan though. But I'm going to run with it for now. I'll keep an eye on that oil pan, make sure it's not going to get rubbed through or anything. But I'm not going to worry about it right now. Alright, check it out. I got a working gas pedal now. Of course I can't really do it one-handed and open the choke up and all that stuff, but I do have full throttle. I checked that. Kind of nice not having a windshield sometimes. You can just stick your head through and look at things. Got the springs, I might need to loosen them up a little bit. A little on the tight side, but it's pretty good. I just ran it off of the valve cover bolt there, bracket, so I think we'll be good. Also got my cap on over there for the heater hose, and my PCV hose here. I've been working on the exhaust. I got this first part done. Going with the glass packs. Had them laying around, so I thought I'd use them. Can't go wrong with glass packs on an old small block. Went ahead and bought a battery. I hate buying batteries because they're so expensive, but I got the Superstart Extreme. Slightly better battery than the basic ones because it's gonna need to crank the engine a little more. This ain't an LS engine, but it may not work as good as an LS, but it sure looks better. Also got battery cables, so I can start hooking that stuff up. Okay, one side of the exhaust is completed. Just got it dumped right before the axle, and the clamp goes up and is bolted to the floor, and it's tucked up in there nice, and it's all one piece. I don't really like clamps, but sometimes you have to use clamps, but this is where you could just lift it right up in there and bolt it in. It's nice because you can't really see it hanging under the car. You can see a little bit of the muffler, but it's really pretty good compared to most of the exhaust systems I've built. So now I got to build the other side to match this side. Alright, got the exhaust all done. Both sides tucked up nice in there. Then I just got it dumped before the axle with a hanger back there. Turned out nice. I think I'm going to end this video here. It's getting kind of long probably. And I'll see you guys in the next one, whenever that may be.